So is the British monarchy outdated? Joining me now to debate this topic is royal historian and broadcaster Rafe Heydel-Mankoo and the chief executive of Republic, Graham Smith. Graham, first of all, you were mentioned in that VT there. You were arrested on Coronation Day by a Metropolitan Police officer and you are now bringing legal action. Where are you up to with that?
Well, we've applied for a judicial review, so that's where we're up to. We don't have an answer on that, and we're waiting, hopefully, fairly early in the new year, we'll get an answer on that. And the expectation is that we'll be successful because I think the case is pretty strong, but we'll have to wait and see what the court says.
Why do you feel that the British monarchy should not exist anymore?
Well, I mean, it is an institution that falls well short of the standards that we expect of public institutions. There's been a lot of talk about the sort of standards we expect of politicians in recent years. The monarchy is highly secretive. It's not going too far to say it's corrupt in the sense of abuse of public office for personal gain. It's not an accusation of criminality, although there have been cases such as cash for honours accusations which still raise questions about the conduct of royals. But profoundly, the Crown is a central part of our constitution, and our constitution is really not very good. It centralises a lot of power in the hands of the Prime Minister. It leaves us without proper checks and balances, and it leaves us with a head of state not willing to act independently of government.
Rafe, it appears that the monarchy has a few long-term challenges.
It does, but we mustn't overestimate this. I mean, let's be clear here. Republicanism is the biggest political failure in modern British history. Even at the monarchy's darkest moments, Republicans have never been able to convince more than a quarter of the nation that it's in their interest to abolish the stability of monarchy for an uncertain republic. You know, and the gold standard all pollsters will tell you, the gold standard is the Ipsos Mori annual poll that's been conducted every year for 30 years, since 1993. The question they asked, should Britain become a republic or remain a monarchy? In 1993, it was 69%. In October of this year, it was 66%. Ipsos Mori has said that is the single most consistent answer they've had to any question in over half a century of polling, and it matches a similar poll taken back in 1969. Because the British public are clear, the old adage still applies: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mature nations that are successful don't tamper with their constitutions unless it's really necessary.
Well, it is necessary, and it's very obviously necessary. I mean, we've had a constitutional crisis that we've just about avoided under Boris Johnson. Had he chosen not to resign, there would have been almost no way of getting rid of him, because the only person who can sack him is the monarch, and the monarch was not anywhere to be seen. Our constitution is absolutely in dire straits in terms of being lacking accountability and checks and balances. In terms of polling, there's been a significant shift. I mean, the Ipsos Mori poll is one poll which asks a very particular question, but lots of other pollsters are showing very significant drops in support for the monarchy, from sort of 80 plus down to 50 plus. I mean, 52% in a more recent Savanta poll. So there is clearly, and a lot of, this isn't just a Republican view, there are a lot of academics and pollsters are saying there is a significant drop in support for the monarchy, and we're now over a third of people saying they want to get rid of it.
Graham, if we get rid of monarchy, let's say tomorrow, what is the alternative?
Well, the alternative is very simple. I mean, most of our neighbours do this. It's a parliamentary republic, and the idea that a republic is somehow an unknown quantity is nonsense, because Ireland does it very successfully, Iceland does it very successfully, Germany, Finland, the Baltic states. These are very stable, prosperous, democratic countries which rank far higher than Britain does in all of the international indices on things like democracy and equality and fairness.
Well, if I can just come back to that point. So it's important to remember there are very few constitutional monarchies in the world, less than 20%, and yet they make up the majority of the top 20 nations in the world, according to the UN's Human Development Index, which marks the quality of life. Britain, Belgium, the Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, Denmark, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. No one would say that those are backward nations, that they're antiquated, that they're being held back by being monarchies. In fact, those are the world's most socially progressive countries. So they're not a hindrance. And rather than giving up an institution that is recognized around the world, that symbolizes our 1,000-year history and our constitution so brilliantly, we are the world's second soft power nation. A large part of that is because of our monarchy. To abandon that for a grace-suited former politician or whoever would become a president seems to me to be for the birds, because quite frankly, the world doesn't pay attention when the president of Germany has a grandchild.
That is, none of that is true. I mean, the fact is that it's not a majority in the top 20, and we're not in the top 20 of political stability.
It's 12 of 20.
And there are just as many republics in the top 10 of all of these indices than there are monarchies. And the reason why some of these monarchies are there, the monarchies have survived because they're stable. They're not stable because they've got a monarchy. That doesn't work. And monarchies historically have been catastrophic for countries like Italy, Spain, Greece, Cambodia, Thailand. You know, they are not a good institution. And the idea that we are going to hang on to this thing where we are worried about whether or not our head of state's grandchild is famous around the world is nonsense.
Sorry, Rafe, final word to you. Young people, in particular in polling, appear to be less favourable towards the monarchy. What does the monarchy need to do to improve that, if anything, if they can do that?
Yeah, so there are one real long-term challenge are two things. Firstly, immigration, because 10 million people in this country were born abroad and they don't have the same cultural or emotional connection to the monarchy, and they don't really have any grounding in the history or the constitution. And also, similarly, we have an issue with young people today. Since 2016, that's what's remarkable. They have just become the most radicalised left-wing demographic we've ever seen, completely out of kilter with those even 5 years older than them. So, and it's not just on the monarchy, it's on support for free speech or love of nation, on a whole raft of issues. So the monarchy needs to really address that, but it's doing such good work, and the King's work and the Prince of Wales's work really do address many of the issues that are close to the King's.
Very briefly, come back on that.
I mean, it's not just young people. There are polls over the last 12 months that show that everybody under the age of 40, a majority or less than a majority support the monarchy.
That's
so
not true.
Support across the board is falling,
Okay.
and
It's 60%
they are in,
for every group apart from the young.
serious long-term trouble. And it's now a matter of when, not if. It will lose its majority support across the country, and it will be abolished.
All right, you need to agree to disagree on that one. We're not going to change the constitution today, but moving